Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. The system's notification proved Zhou right. He was not in a hurry to merge the heavenly writing scrolls. Instead, he looked at the Tuckahoe pies at the side. Zhao Yu smiled. It seems like these are sent by 6th junior sister. Tuckahoe pies were one of the desserts Yi Tianxin was most skilled at making. When Yi Tianxin was still on the mountain, she frequently made them for her master. Also, it was thanks to this that Yi Tianxin obtained the amorous hoop that she wanted ahead of time. Zhou was surprised that Yi Tianxian still remembered this. Alas, the current Ji Tiandao was no longer the Ji Tiandao of old. He did not like Tuckahoe pies. Hence, he waved his hand and said, "Share it among yourselves." Zhao Yu said in confusion, "Huh? But 6th junior sister made them for you. I dare not accept it. I have no appetite." Zhou blurted out the first excuse that came to his mind. When Zhao Yu heard this, she bowed and said, "Thank you, master." However, inwardly, she was worried. Master's losing his appetite. It's said that this often happens in old age. Is master's great limit truly near? Aside from cultivating, Zhao Yu would also keep up with the news in the outside world. It was only natural for her to worry, what with all the rumors being circulated. She was not the only one who was worried about Zhou. The other disciples and the old age pavilion had often discussed their plan should the noble path come knocking. Zhao Yu took the Tuckahoe pies and said, "There's a letter as well." "I see." Zhou glanced at the letter inside the parcel. Zhao Yu dared not stay for a moment longer. She left the room respectfully. Zhou picked up the letter, opened it, and scanned through it. It read, "Dear Master, your disciple, Yi Tianxin, delivered these items to the Evil Sky Pavilion as requested by 2nd senior brother. 2nd senior brother is afflicted by a curse and has severed his golden lotus. He's now trapped inside the Melilot graveyard and is recuperating there while sprouting his leaves again. 2nd senior brother wants to tell you that everything's fine. Regards, the unfilial rascal, Yi Tianxin." After reading the letter, Zhou frowned. Primal chi surged in his hand, and he burned the letter into ashes. So, severing one's golden lotus and surviving is possible? Zhou sat down slowly. He remembered the rumors he heard before this. He shook his head and mumbled to himself, "Stubborn." His unyielding attitude was reminiscent of a young Yu Shangrong. He would always solve and carry the problem he encountered on his own. At the moment, the Noble Path was forming an alliance to attack Golden Court Mountain. Zhou initially wanted to summon the Old Age Pavilion to discuss the matter of severing golden lotuses. Then, he thought it would only be detrimental to the Evil Sky Pavilion if word of it got out. Besides, the success cases were too few and could hardly serve as references. Since the theory was already widespread, all he had to do was wait for the results. At this moment, Zhu Honggong appeared outside the pavilion. He bowed and said, "Greetings, master. Come in." Zhou stood with his hands on his back and walked to the window before looking out. Zhu Honggong opened the doors and entered. He bowed again as he said, "Master, I have good news." "Let's hear it." "I've learned much about the memory crystal from 7th senior brother." Based on Zhu Honggong's current expression, he was clearly waiting to be praised. Zhou turned to look at Zhu Honggong and said again, "Let's hear it." Zhu Honggong relied on Si Wuya the most when he was on Tiger Ridge Mountain. Si Wuya had secretly helped Zhu Honggong on more than one occasion as well. The two of them were closer than most. It was normal for Zhu Honggong to be able to glean information from him. He said that he has no idea about the whereabouts of the crystal. It might be in Rongxi or Rongbei. He has no way of knowing since you were the one who sealed it, Zhu Honggong said. Zhou stroked his beard and nodded. Continue. He said that there are many things that aren't what we think them to be. He's not afraid of being misunderstood or carrying the blame since he's used to it, Zhu Honggong said. Master, why do I have the feeling that 7th senior brother is treating us all like fools? With his hands behind his back, Lu Zhou said, he thinks too highly of himself. That's right. He acts as if he's the smartest man in the world and everyone else is stupid, Zhu Honggong said. Lu Zhou turned around and stared at Zhu Honggong before he said, gossiping behind another person's back. Go out and receive your punishment. He had to educate Old Eighth since Old Eighth had this two-faced behavior. When Zhu Honggong heard this, he instantly shuddered. He initially wanted to ask for forgiveness, but when he remembered what his 4th senior brother told him, he hastily said, I've made a mistake. Ding. Punished Zhu Honggong. Reward, 200 merit points. In the afternoon, Lu Zhou appeared in the Cave of Reflection. There was a small crowd gathered outside the cave. The 3 elders of the Old Age Pavilion and his disciples were there as well. Pan Litian stood up and cupped his fists at Si Wuya as he said, I've lost this match. My chess skills have always been lacking. Thank you for letting me win. Si Wuya's expression remained unchanged. The matters of the world are like a game of chess. There are times where life experience doesn't translate into superior chess skills. I'm enlightened. The female disciples around were filled with awe. Mr. 7th, you're truly intelligent. You're skilled in music, chess, writing, and drawing. Elder Hua has lost, Elder Lang has lost, even Elder Pan has lost. The game of chess is over. What's the next match going to be? I want to continue watching. As he listened to the female cultivator's discussion, Si Wuya shook his head and said, there's no need. The others regarded Si Wuya in confusion. Si Wuya said with a calm expression, having an intense match with a competent opponent is something to be excited about. Forgive me for being blunt, but our exchanges have been slightly boring. The others were embarrassed. If they had won even a single match against Si Wuya, they could have refuted his words. However, he had won from morning until now. The others were thoroughly defeated. The victor would always be in the right. No matter what the loser said, it would only sound like excuses. Just when Si Wuya was about to return to the Cave of Reflection, Lu Zhou's voice reached his ears. Feeling satisfied with yourself? The others turned around immediately in the direction of his voice. Greetings, Pavilion Master. Greetings, Master. Lu Zhou walked with his hands on his back. The crowd parted for him. Si Wuya did not expect his master to suddenly show up. He humbled his attitude at once. The look of pride on his face faded away as he bowed and said, Master. Lu Zhou walked toward Si Wuya and stood before him. He stared at Si Wuya. Do you think that you're very smart just because you've won against them? I dare not. Lu Zhou glanced at the items around him. There was a mind game that resembled Huarong Road, a die that would normally be seen on a gambling table, and a set of Go. How could the people of the Evil Sky Pavilion win against Si Wuya in these games? When Lu Zhou recruited him, Si Wuya was already a regular at various gambling dens. When he was 10, he was a prodigy whom the gambling dens respected and feared. Lu Zhou kept his eyes on Si Wuya. Si Wuya's pride was different from Yu Shangrong's. Yu Shangrong's pride originated from his bones. It was born out of confidence in and respect for his own sword skills. On the other hand, Si Wuya's pride was not only built upon a sense of self-acclaimed superiority, but it was also built upon tearing others down. This disciple had to be educated and disciplined. Lu Zhou looked at Si Wuya and said, You're adept in solving riddles. I just so happen to have a few that I'd like to consult you about. When he heard the word consult, Si Wuya fell to his knees in a haste. I've made a mistake. Lu Zhou stroked his beard as he looked at Si Wuya, who had just fallen to his knees, and said, If you can answer me, I'll regard you as my teacher. Si Wuya trembled inwardly. He felt a chill ran up his spine. If his master was anything like his old self, he would have rained down punches and kicks upon him. His master would not have bothered to ask him questions. He could wrap his mind around his master's change in attitude. The others who were watching were also shocked by Lu Zhou's words. Lu Zhou must be confident to say these words to Si Wuya. Si Wuya did not dare to say anything. He did not even dare to look up. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and considered it. As a transmigrator, he could ask questions about calculus, world-class mathematical problems, or conjectures of the school of names, but he felt that it would be meaningless. Apart from thoroughly putting Si Wuya in his place, it was not a good way of educating Si Wuya. It was the duty of a teacher to resolve his students' confusions. After muttering to himself for a while, he finally said, "The people in power shouldn't fear a scarcity of resources, but rather its unequal distribution. If I only have 8 weapons, how should I distribute them among my disciples?" Si Wuya was taken aback. He was at a loss over how to answer the question. The others exchanged glances as well. How were 8 weapons supposed to be divided among 9 disciples? How could the distribution be equal? Would a weapon still be a weapon if it was split? If he killed one of his disciples, would it be even? "Answer me," Lu Zhou said commandingly in a deep voice as he looked down at Si Wuya. Lu Zhou seemed to be intentionally putting Si Wuya in a tight spot, but the others thought there was more meaning to this than meets the eye. Would Si Wuya be bold enough to answer? Would he revolt and attempt to become his master's teacher? Everything in the world has a source. In that case, what's the origin of the world? Lu Zhou asked again. Upon hearing this question, Si Wuya shuddered. Lu Zhou said in a deep voice again, "Answer me." Were there answers to these questions? The elders of the old age pavilion kept shaking their heads. Let alone them, even Si Wuya could not answer this question. Many years ago, someone had asked this question in the cultivation world. However, the explanation proposed was so vague that it could be applied in any situation. Since the advent of cultivation theories of the Buddhist, Confucian, and Taoist sects, there had already been heated debates about similar matters. If there had been an answer, there would not have been such a wide gap in understanding. "Can't you answer it?" Lu Zhou looked down at Si Wuya. Si Wuya shook his head. He would never dare to claim that he was a great scholar. He had the pride, but he did not have the guts. "If it's something vague, the others might think that I'm bullying you." Lu Zhou stroked his beard as he pondered on it. He suddenly remembered about the issue of severing the golden lotus. Was the truth valid just because everyone believed it? Galileo experimented with 2 iron balls by allowing them to fall at the same time in his quest to challenge the truth. In a similar way of thinking, was it a must for the golden lotus to exist? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? With these thoughts in mind, Lu Zhou asked again. Cultivators formed golden lotuses to enter the nascent divinity realm and sprout leaves to improve their cultivation bases. Let me ask you this, which came first, the golden lotus or the leaf? Si Wuya was slightly taken aback. Was this question difficult? It sounded simple enough. When a cultivator formed the 100 Tribulations Insight avatar, it was a given for them to form a golden lotus before sprouting leaves. However, he only dared to answer the question in his heart and not out loud. The others found this strange as well. How can there be leaves without a golden lotus? It's only natural for the golden lotus to exist first, Hua Wudao said. If the method of severing the golden lotus is real, it's also possible for one to sprout leaves before forming a golden lotus, Pan Litian said. The problem is nobody has succeeded yet. The others began discussing this matter in earnest. When they returned to the topic of severing the golden lotus, they wondered if it was possible that the method was flawed to begin with. Throughout these few days, the Evil Sky Pavilion had also obtained some information from the outside world. So far, those who severed their golden lotuses had died. Si Wuya did not need to answer the question because the answer was obvious. Lu Zhou had expected everyone to have these thoughts. If his second disciple, Yu Shangrong, had not successfully severed his golden lotus, he would not have asked this question. He looked at Si Wuya calmly. All he had to do was throw questions at him. When Yu Shangrong returned, the answer would be obvious. "Think carefully before you answer my question." Lu Zhou was about to turn around and return to the eastern pavilion when Zhao Yu walked over with a letter in hand. Master, a letter from Zhenghai Jian. Read it. Zhao Yu unfolded the letter and read aloud, Old Senior, the method of severing the golden lotus has reached the palace. The palace gathered 100 men to experiment on. During the day, 10 of them severed their golden lotuses, and only one person survived. Old Senior. I have a feeling that I'll be witnessing history. Zhao Yu did not want to read the letter. She had always been annoyed by the at the end of the letter. When she looked up, she discovered everyone was looking at her with a stunned expression. She was annoyed by the so she was distracted. The end of the letter stated that one person survived. Everyone fell silent. Finally, Pan Lydian asked, this means that it's truly possible to survive after severing one's golden lotus. So, the leaf came before the golden lotus? Perhaps, the young cultivators did not understand the question. However, Lang Luo, Pan Lydian, and Hua Wudao realized that the problem lay with the golden lotus. Si Wuya frowned, an incredulous expression could be seen on his face. Just a second ago, he was convinced he had the right answer. However, now, his answer was proven wrong like a slap to his face. This was much more hurtful to him than if he were to be physically beaten. Lu Zhou glanced at Si Wuya. He remained silent and left for the eastern pavilion. Safe journey, master. Safe journey, pavilion master. The others merely glanced at Si Wuya before leaving the back of the mountain. Zhu Honggong was the only one who remained. He walked up to Si Wuya's side and said, 7th senior brother, you're finally back. Can't you just lay low for a while? With his master gone, Si Wuya returned to normal. How am I supposed to lay low? Si Wuya asked, these people are outsiders, after all. As an evil sky pavilion disciple, I must never bring shame to the pavilion. Zhu Honggong scratched his head. You seem to have a point. Are you truly unable to answer master's questions? Si Wuya replied with a disapproving tone, it's only a vague question. It's normal for someone to not be able to answer the question. 7th senior brother, have a good rest. I'll be taking my leave. When he returned to the eastern pavilion, Lu Zhou walked up to the table, picked up his brush, and drew a golden lotus on the paper. After scrutinizing it for a moment, Lu Zhou stroked his beard and nodded. It was proven that severing one's golden lotus was a feasible feat. The next step was to improve the survival rate. Surely, the collective wisdom of the people under the heavens could find a better way to achieve this. Relying on the strength of a group was better than fighting alone. Just when he was about to meditate on the heavenly writing scrolls, he heard a voice from outside. Greetings, Master. May you live forever and ever. Come in. Lu Zhou, naturally, knew it was Zhu Honggong, his 8th disciple. Zhu Honggong entered the room and kneeled on the ground before he said, Master. I have a feeling that 7th senior brother isn't quite willing to accept the outcome. Unwilling? Lu Zhou regarded Zhu Honggong in confusion. Even he himself could not answer those questions, let alone Si Wuya. What was there to be unwilling to accept? He says your questions are vague, and that it's normal for anyone to be unable to answer them, Zhu Honggong said tentatively. Lu Zhou frowned. As expected, Si Wuya, this rascal, was a tougher nut to crack than Yu Shangrong. I'll see what I can do about it. He suddenly remembered the fear he felt from being dominated by mathematics. His wizened face twitched despite himself. There was no need to pose the 7 greatest mathematical problems of the world or ask any questions related to high-end technical fields. After all, Lu Zhou could not even prove or answer them himself. At the end of the day, Si Wuya would still be unconvinced. Lu Zhou waved his hand, and a paper flew toward him. He raised his brush and wrote a mathematical problem in this world's language. The paper rustled as the brush flew across the surface. After he finished writing, he put down his brush and said, Take this to him. Yes, master.